I do kind of look at Drake like, bad timing again.
Drake not being great hurts. It hurts the ecosystem.
I study
Not being great
for a living.
Lobbies and Gentlegrams, in today's episode of Lobby in Gentleland, the sharpshooting, short-statured assassin, sad singer, slaughtering, strong penman, Pulitzer Prize-winning West Coast warrior, King Kung Fu Kenny Lamar, laughed at Lobby as he launched himself into a whole nother stratosphere, becoming one of the first rappers cheered for at the Emmys. Meanwhile, Joe Budden says without the petty petition Padre, the rap game has felt empty. Let's take a look at it all, but first dunk on the like and subscribe buttons like a net and a ball.
I study
balls
for a living.
Alright, so in my last video, we took a look at some of the moves La Brianna has been making since shaking off that L back in 2024. We have seen him become a streamer, making his first public appearance where we actually hear him speak on a stream with XQC, who had no idea what his music was.
And it's on Scorpion.
What's that? Wait, is that an album name?
Yeah, yes. It's my name. It's my
album. Because album names, I'm not a name guy.
Okay, whatever, it's a song.
So it's an older, right? Because it's an older album.
Yeah.
What color is the album Scorpion? What color is it?
Black
and gray. Man, I'm gonna make a fool of myself. Black and gray. It's headlines.
Jaded.
Close.
Fitting that the man who studies rap battles for a living
I study rap battles for a living.
links up with someone who has publicly said they do not like lyrics in their music. That's like a cow going on a blind date with a vegetarian. And speaking of vegans avoiding beef, the same week Drake linked XQC for that stream. He became probably the first rapper in history to ever sue over a rap battle, strategically dropping his lawsuit against UMG on the same week that Kendrick released GNX.
I study
lawsuits
for a living.
Then he flew out to Australia to hide from America as Kendrick Lamar took the Super Bowl stage, garnering the most viewed halftime performance of all time in history, and now the first Super Bowl performance, I believe, to win an Emmy Award. We're going to touch on that shortly.
Spicy.
About a week after the Super Bowl halftime show, Drake also strategically released an album with PARTYNEXTDOOR to try and take the attention away from King Kung Fu Kenny. His worst received project to date, with around a 50 score on Metacritic. That's a 5 on 10.
Embarrassing.
He did listen to Kendrick's advice there, though, when he rapped, "I like Drake with the melodies, I don't like him when he act tough." And you know the album was bad when Drake has released that album plus about 20 other songs since the beef, and his fans are still acting like he left the rap game and it's been dead without him. Joe Budden kind of echoed these statements as well, so we're going to touch on that later in this video.
Drake not being great hurts. It hurts the ecosystem.
But really, when you look at it, everything the OV hoes are mad about, all these conspiracies Drake fans make on Twitter, their anger doesn't stem in Kendrick Lamar or his fans. It stems in the moves Drake's been making. They're mad at UMG, even though UMG released Drake's diss songs onto streaming platforms the same way they did Kendrick's. And they would have promoted Drake's diss records the same way they did Kendrick's if they were actually good and ended up dominating the charts the way Not Like Us did. They're mad at Kendrick fans saying that Kendrick bots his music. Meanwhile, they had no complaints when Drake was dominating the charts after his Pusha T beef with God's Plan, Nice for What, all of those records.
I'm gonna see y'all, but not see y'all, man, for real. You know, I got hope. Real talk.
I don't know if you should have done all that.
They are tired, man. Give them a break. All they get is duck lip selfies, fake abs, and constant teases of a red button, an industry exposing round 2, and it's always just laced with mid music.
I study
mid music
for a living.
And Drake fed into the narrative that hip-hop has been dead and he's been away from the game, and it's been nothing without him, because aside from bars like, what are they going to do if I'm not at the top? Torque with a dictionary. He's also been rolling out his latest project, the first solo album since the beef, Iceman, with these long-winded streams. The first one including a song called What Did I Miss, where he's acting like the entire industry is against him and he'll prevail stronger than ever. And the third episode being the most ridiculous of all, with all his fans being led to believe that this was going to be the nuke that sets off round 2 of a rap battle he lost a year and a half ago and shatter the entire industry with some highly controversial, damaging expose of evidence. Can you guess what it was? It was more mid-music.
I study
mid-music
for a living.
Drake doesn't want a round 2 with Kendrick. If there's any OV hoes listening, let me make it very clear. Get the delusions out of your head. Drake has no desire to get back in the booth and start rapping with Kendrick. I saw one OV ho in tears on Twitter saying that Kendrick was cruel for dragging Drake into this rap battle because after For All the Dogs, Drake had announced he'd be taking a break from music to focus on stomach issues that he had, and they were trying to make it like Kendrick is this cruel figure dragging Drake into a beef he didn't want while he's suffering health issues. You do realize that a week after For All the Dogs came out and it was received horribly by critics, after Drake announced he was going to take a break, his ego couldn't handle the hate that his album was receiving, so he put out another entire deluxe album with 5 songs that he recorded that week just to show rap purists that he can still rap. Him coming back in the game after his stomach health issues has nothing to do with Kendrick Lamar. I say that to say, all of these issues that the OV hoes are complaining about, they don't stem from Kendrick, they don't stem from UMG, they stem from the crappy moves Drake has been making.
I study
Crappy moves
for a living.
And I bring up all of Drake's moves just to kind of emphasize the parallel. We just went through the main moves Drake has made since this beef terminated. Now let's look on the flip side at Kendrick Lamar. Because even while he's dead silent, it's approaching a year since we've heard new music from him, he just got off his tour, he is still on this victory lap collecting historic W's. Just tonight, or last night, depending on when I drop this video, it's pretty late for me, so drop a like for the grind. Yeah, he picked up 2 new awards tonight, and they all stem back to the day of May 5th, when he dropped the most legendary diss record of all time. The bots have been working overtime because Not Like Us continues to live on today as we approach 2026. It all started with the pop-out concert in June when Kendrick performed Not Like Us 6 times, uniting his whole city for a monumental concert, the most streamed live music event in Amazon history. Then we got GNX, which is the highest selling hip-hop album of 2025, and it came out in 2024. Kendrick racked up 4 Billboard #1 hits in the span of 12 months. And if the OV hoes are going to say that it's Not Like Us that's been carrying Kendrick's success, then what do you say to Luther? What do you say to Squabble Up? Those were 2 #1 hits. What do you say to TV Off? Then we saw him hit the road with SZA for one of the first hip-hop stadium tours of all time, and once it's concluded in December, it'll probably become the highest grossing hip-hop tour of all time. Of course, we saw him rack up 5 Grammys back in February, making history for not just having the first diss song to win in the main categories, but having the first hip-hop song to win Song of the Year and Record of the Year. If you go back to my Grammy videos from February, you'll realize how monumental this is. In the 20-30 years that the Grammys have actually been nominating hip-hop songs in the main categories, everyone from Outkast, Lauryn Hill, Eminem, Kanye West, Jay-Z, etc., Kendrick Lamar is the only one to win the Song of the Year and the Record of the Year in history. Then, of course, the most viewed Super Bowl halftime performance of all time. I think he also won like 7 BET Awards. Then he went to Drake's city of Toronto, untouched, did 2 nights in the Rogers Stadium, a place that Drake has never visited on his tour. He usually does smaller venues. And Kendrick performed all his diss tracks, not just Not Like Us, in front of 85,000 people within Toronto. All the while, we haven't heard Kendrick say a word. And now we're in September. It's about a year removed from when they announced that Kendrick would be the Super Bowl halftime performer, and the W's still keep coming in. Kendrick Lamar wins the Emmy for Best Music Direction for the Apple Music Super Bowl halftime show on February 9th, 2025. Is this the first rapper to ever win an Emmy? You gotta let me know in the comments. And when I was describing Kendrick's victory lap a couple minutes ago, I was emphasizing the number side of things, right? Because that's what's quantifiable. But even in this Emmy award, Outstanding Music Direction, that's what he won this Emmy for. And you got to think about the impact that all of the visuals, all of the art Kendrick has put together over the last, 15, 16 months, how amazing that has been, right? The entire Super Bowl show following this narrative of the great American game, that carrying double meanings because, of course, he's actually performing at the great American football game, and it's coming off of the heels of an amazing victory in the game of battle rap, but also carries the grander message of Kendrick being a young black man in America, playing society's game of trying to achieve the American dream, and highlighting all the hurdles that you would face while on that journey. Samuel L. Jackson playing Uncle Sam, narrating the entire performance, deducting points off Kendrick's life in the game as he makes what would be considered, quote-unquote, the wrong moves within this game. certain songs he's performing being too loud, too ghetto, as Uncle Sam had said, building that anticipation for whether or not he was gonna pull that red button and actually perform Not Like Us, and him kind of teasing it throughout the show, but weaving it in and out through softer, more commercially accessible records like All the Stars or Luther, gaining points in the game for songs like that. The whole stage being designed like a PlayStation controller with different sectors of the design representing different elements of life within America. At one point, he's on a street corner with all his friends. The introduction of the show is him popping out of the GNX, which was actually the car he was driven home in from the hospital when he was born with his father. So it's very fitting that that's how he started off the show. All the dancers wearing blue, red, and white representing the colors of the American flag, with Kendrick standing in between them representing the division within America, and also the red and blue colors representing the rivaling gangs within his city. And who could forget him wearing a lowercase a chain meant to obviously represent the logo of PG Lang, but then bringing out Mustard, who's wearing an uppercase M chain right after they do Not Like Us. You know what I'm talking about? Lowercase a and an M, A minor.
I'm gonna see y'all, but not see y'all, man, for real. You know, I got hope. Real talk.
I don't know if you should have done all that.
And then ending the entire game with TV off, where he literally turns the TV off as he concludes his performance. I'm telling you, this show is going to have an impact for years to come, not just because of the amazing concept, the storytelling within it, which is why he just won Best Music Direction for an Emmy Award, but also just due to the fact that Kendrick substituted all of the hits for pure hard-hitting rap music on a stage like that, watched by over 130 million people. Like Labrie, I'm a white guy in Canada, so I was around a lot of, aunts and uncles and Canadians just unfamiliar with hip-hop, right? And they were all very confused by this halftime show. But that's what makes it iconic. That's what will make its legacy live on, is the fact that it was hard to digest on first watch. You had to go back and really dissect the message he was trying to convey and why he specifically chose every record that he did. Each one had a lot of intention behind it, and you could tell just by the placement of the records, right? Like what parts of the stage he was performing each record on. There was a long street throughout the stage, and that's where he performed Euphoria. He was walking them down. He performed Peekaboo. On the X part of the stage, the X part of the controller, he performed Man at the Garden on the street post, and he performed with SZA on top of these elevated platforms, and that's where he performed, the most commercially accessible triumphant records like All the Stars. And of course, introducing the whole show, popping out of the GNX like he did when he was a baby first born. Everything had a lot of intention behind it, and even the song choices had intention behind them, not just because it was unconventional, it got people who maybe weren't familiar with hip-hop to go check out some real rap, but don't forget, most of the records performed were released after he finished his contract with TDE in 2022. He did Euphoria, Peekaboo, Luther, Squabble Up, Not Like Us, TV Off, etc. These are all songs Kendrick Lamar owns the masters to. Do you understand how much more impactful it is when all these songs see massive rises in their streaming numbers after a show like this, when you got all these eyeballs on you and you actually own the rights to this music? Everything from the creative choices to the business moves he's made have all been extremely strategic. Even the fact that Young Thug was mad he wouldn't hop on his music in 2023, and then by 2024, he's hopping on another Atlanta rapper's record, Future and Metro Boomin, with Like That, to strategically diss Drake while he was on tour and kick off this entire beef while Drake's guard was down. Powerful, powerful moves. It's also very important to note, Kendrick Lamar is now halfway to an EGOT. I've never heard of this before, but that's an Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and a Tony. That's, I guess, like the holy trinity of awards, right? These are the most coveted award shows. So if Kendrick Lamar wins an award at each of these shows, that says something extremely powerful. And we can't forget, this is what I'm looking forward to the frickin' most, all right? He has a movie releasing with the creators of South Park. By the way, I just started like a TV show / South Park YouTube channel, so maybe I'll leave a link for that in the description. You guys can check it out. But yeah, man, with that movie on the way, that's going to be a classic movie, no doubt. Everything Matt Stone and Trey Parker, the creators of South Park, put out is classic. Combine Kendrick's comedic and musical elements with Matt Stone and Trey Parker's also talent for music, and of course writing exceptional comedies. That could be enough to help Kendrick pick up both the Oscars and the Tonys. And I mean, just look at what Kendrick has accomplished already, right? He's now won, not one, but I believe 2 Emmys. He's won multiple Grammy Awards. He's almost the most awarded rapper in Grammy history. He's won a Pulitzer Prize for his album Damn. He's got classic albums. He beat Drake in a rap battle. Longest charting rap song in Billboard Hot 100 history. He has 2 Super Bowl halftime show performances, one solo and one with Dr. Dre. And he's approaching the highest grossing hip hop tour of all time. When Drake fans complain on Twitter, they're not angry at Kendrick Lamar. They're angry that Kendrick Lamar has accomplished everything that Drake hasn't. Oh, don't forget, he also just won a VMA award tonight for Best Cinematography for Not Like Us. Now, can someone explain to me, how the hell do you win an award for a song that came out a year and a half ago? Like, wouldn't it be awarded in 2024, not 2025? This part I don't understand, but hey, it deserves the awards. I'm not mad. Now, follow me on Twitter, alright? At Rapaholics or at hiphophistory_. Maybe I'll leave a link for that in the description. But I had tweeted out that this was all a big conspiracy from UMG to take Drake down, right? They deployed the bots. Lucy and Grange back at it again. All those Emmy votes to get Kendrick that Emmy, those were fake. It was the bots. First, UMG had paid to have that PDF Drake joke made at the Oscars. You guys remember that joke? Well, now they're plugging in the bots for Kendrick to win the Emmys and the VMAs. How do you sweep up VMAs for a song from 2024 in 2025? Make that make sense. But you know what? The elimination of Drake that UMG is trying so hard to make happen will not work, because that big red button he pressed in Iceman episode 3 has destroyed the game. It destroyed the game so hard that UMG has paid everyone to stay silent on it. I haven't heard anyone talk about Iceman episode 3 since it came out, and that has to be because it was so revealing. It was such a big red button, right, that no one wants to talk about it anymore. That's why we're all not talking about Iceman episode 3. Because it was too good? Nah, some of you on Twitter, man, you didn't understand the satire. I've never seen so many OV hoes flock to my page. You would have thought I was selling Big Macs on that page the way so many DJ Big Mac and Akademiks' minions had flocked over. And the Kendrick fans, they were attacking me, boy. But if you guys are not on Twitter, like, this is really how the OV hosts speak on Twitter on a daily basis. It's absolutely insane. And speaking of all the bots, all the fake streams, all the gimmicks UMG pulls behind the scenes to make Kendrick the biggest superstar in the game, they're doing the same thing with Doechii, right? The queen of the industry plants, according to the OV hoes. So she also racked up a couple wins tonight. She got herself an Emmy as well. Her performance at the 2025 Grammy Award had won the Emmy for Outstanding Choreography for Variety or Reality Programming. And just like Kendrick Lamar, she didn't only just win an Emmy tonight. She also picked herself up a VMA award for Best Hip Hop winner for Anxiety. Now, 2 things. First of all, how are the MTV VMA Video Music Awards and the Emmys airing on the same night? Isn't that kind of counterintuitive for their ratings and all that stuff? Second, are you guys curious like me, like what Doechii's next move is going to be? Like, she has received an incredible amount of accolades, but also an incredible amount of hate over the last few months. People are upset that, you know, she remixed a classic song with Doechii's Somebody That I Used to Know to turn that into Anxiety. They don't realize that was just a remix she did in her basement years ago, like in 2020, and it went viral this year. So obviously she's going to put that out on streaming platforms and make it a real song. And they don't really understand like the work she's put in, the groundwork she's laid over the last 5 years since she signed to TDE to get to the point she's gotten to, right? Like, she put out a phenomenal concept project last year with Alligator Bites Never Heal, and it only really received the credit it deserved once it won the award at the Grammys for Best Hip Hop Album. But because her popularity rose up so fast after the Grammys, and then pretty much right after the Grammys, she got that massive hit with Anxiety, people were confused. We haven't seen an artist really lay that foundation really strong for years and years, and then all of a sudden have this explosive rise, right? We're used to quick, cheap TikTok hits and artists that fade away within 15 minutes. Honestly, the last female rapper that had such a meteoric rise, in my opinion, compared to Doechii, was Nicki Minaj. She had been laying down the groundwork as well for years and years with the Come Up DVDs, working with Gucci Mane heavy. It was only once she signed to Lil Wayne, went on a monstrous feature run, no pun intended, and then dropped her debut album to where we saw her hit these like massive levels of superstardom. But in the streaming era, we're not used to seeing artists have that sort of come up. So TDE really training Doechii before her big moment, it confused people. tied in with all the hate Kendrick has been getting from the OV hoes because of his success, and now you have two of TDE's artists flourishing on levels we haven't seen in a long time. People were confused, to say the least, right? And that hate could definitely get to your head. Like, she was a young artist who hadn't received that much attention on this type of level. So to finally get that and then constantly be called an industry plant, it's got to be a little crushing, to say the least, right? And at the very least, it puts a lot of pressure on you for what your next move is going to be. But I have no doubt we're going to get a phenomenal debut album from her in the near future. And I did a whole documentary on Doechii as well. If you guys are interested in her actual come up, like how she got to where she got to, maybe I'll leave a link for that in the description of this video as well. But yeah, people are just looking for something to complain about, right? Like, a lot of people are talking about rap is boring, but I just detailed you how we had two massive moments from two hip-hop artists who really put the focus on creating high-value conceptual projects. Both of them reaping the fruits of their labor in 2025, with each of them picking up an Emmy and a VMA. And the people are confused, right? Where is this success coming from, and why does it still feel like there's a void within hip-hop? I genuinely think a shift is happening. I think ever since that Kendrick and Drake beef, where people actually went back to analyzing lyrics, placing value on what's being said in the music rather than the vibe that they feel, it woke people up and realized we're tired of being pacified, right? This entire time that Drake was at the top, it was all about the vibe. It was all about the sound. The lyrics took a back seat. Look at his last 5 projects and look at what has happened in the meantime. You got the rise in streaming, right? Which ushered in a brand new way to market and promote your music. And that led to different, unique eras, like the SoundCloud era, which ushered in what people call mumble rap with the Lil Uzis, Young Thugs, Playboi Carti, Lil Yachty. You had the TikTok famous rappers. You had the Instagram clout chasing rappers like the 6ix9ines and the Lil Pumps. The biggest superstars after Drake were all artists who placed less focus on lyrics and more on melody and sound and vibe, right? Future, Travis Scott, Lil Uzi, even some who tragically passed away like XXX and Juice WRLD. They were poised to lead the next generation. From a mainstream perspective, we are being fed music that placed a lot less of an emphasis on message. And even the major players were placing less emphasis on lyrics, right? Look at Drake, look at Kanye West, his last few projects compared to the College Dropout, Graduation, etc. My point is that anyone who wants to tell you a shift did not happen in 2024 is flat out lying, all right? Drake, from a mainstream perspective, was at the top of the rap game, delivering pop hits for years and years, and with that ushered in an entire era of artists who focused more on melodies and less on message. We are in a weird space though within the mainstream because you can't just have one without the other. You can't just have all message, no melody, or vice versa. Go back to hits from the 90s, Nothing Was a G-Thing, Juicy, California Love, whatever you want to look at. Along with a strong message came a memorable hook. Same thing in the 2000s and the early 2010s. It was only when Drake took over the mainstream that hip-hop started to take a dip in terms of what was actually being said behind the music. Artists were forced to sing. If you couldn't sing, whether it was auto-tune, whether it was just, mumbling a chorus, whatever it was, you couldn't make it big. And it was Drake who kind of made that the standard. Now you're seeing not just Kendrick, but like I mentioned before, artists like Doechii, Tyler the Creator. They're all making massive mainstream moments and again, putting the message back on the forefront. But there has got to be a balance. And that's why I feel like music as a whole right now is kind of in this transition period of what will be the next sound that carries in the next generation? Who will be the one to carry on that torch? Will it continue to be Drake? Will Kendrick take his place from a mainstream perspective? The Drake fans who complain that hip-hop is dead and there's been this void because Drake has been missing, they're wrong because Drake has not been missing. He's been more active than ever. The problem is the public isn't pacified anymore and his music isn't hitting the same, so it doesn't feel like his presence is as strong. People want it to be Kendrick Lamar who carries that torch, and I think he could in terms of who we look at as the superstar of this generation, right? Who we look at as creating the biggest moments, having the best music, having the best selling music as well, etc. However, there's got to be more than one artist, right? And it was, I believe, Professor Sky on Culture United, amazing show, who made the great point in that it wasn't just Drake that has kind of been on the decline. It's also been Kanye West. And the two of them were carrying mainstream hip hop from 2005 all the way until around 2021 when both of them dropped Donda and CLB. That was kind of the decline for both of them. From an impact perspective, a sales perspective, everything, right? And that gets overlooked. Kanye's lack of presence within music at this point gets overlooked. And because we're missing two of hip-hop's biggest superstars, one who lost a massive rap battle and is throwing temper tantrums, acting like a little toddler, giving us horrible music, and the other one just, being obsessed with the mustache man and whatever Kanye's on, it's left this void, and Kendrick Lamar has been able to replace a lot of that void. But you need more than one artist to make that massive change, right? To shift the entire tides in the opposite direction. And Kendrick has let you know that he is not the savior, right? He moves on his own time. He'll drop music when he feels like it's the right time to drop. In the meantime, someone else has to come in and kind of shake things up in order for us to really experience what the next chapter within the genre is going to be. So I'd conclude that by saying we're on the cusp of change. But again, there has to be a balance between melody and message, something that could have an impact on a global scale in terms of people singing the songs from your grandmother to your 4-year-old child, and something that can cater to, I believe, this new audience that is not going to settle for pacified, mediocre crap. We're seeing that very clearly, right? With Young Thug, who hasn't been able to make an impactful moment after one of the most highly publicized criminal trials in hip-hop history. We're seeing it with Travis Scott, who released a project with his entire label where he had probably about like 15 solo songs, and none of them failed to make an impact. Lil Baby, who was poised to be the next Lil Wayne, is now scrapping his albums and his tours. We had a whole new crop of artists in like the late 2010s, early 2020s who were kind of poised to be the next up in terms of a mainstream perspective. Lil TJ, Polo G, A Boogie with the Hoodie, Fabio Foreign, Lil Mosey, The Kid Laroi, DaBaby, Roddy Ricch. Their music didn't have the staying power. So then you get Akademiks saying all his rapper friends are telling him Kendrick Lamar killed hip-hop because he made everyone obsessed with bars and battles. No, he made everyone obsessed with quality music. Big moments, larger-than-life moments, high-value projects like GNX. When you put out quality, fans will reward you. We're seeing that with Tyler, the Creator. We're seeing that with Doechii as well, right? But there's a whole crop of rappers who were used to getting by on coast mode, dropping mediocre project after mediocre project, and fans were eating it up. Those days are gone. And because of that, something has to take its place, which is why it feels like aside from Kendrick making these massive moments, hip hop has been in this kind of stagnant phase, right? We're waiting for something new. So I say all that to say, the Joe Budden podcast recently echoed Akademiks' statements in that, hip hop is kind of dying out right now or whatever. And they weren't that drastic about it, but they did say something kind of interesting, which I don't necessarily disagree with. Sorry, I don't necessarily agree with this. In that, because Drake is no longer the biggest rapper, so they start off there talking about how the streamers have been hating on this new Iceman episode 3 that Drake put out, right? The big red button. Because Kai Cenat said it was a complete waste of time. It was ASS. And Joe Budden is saying, Drake is doing these live streams, right? Like Iceman rollouts, which I actually have to give credit to Drake. I think it's very innovative to, put on this whole big budget production, make like an hour and a half live stream in order to preview a bunch of new music. I think that's a really cool way to do it. I just think he's executing it poorly, right? He's trying to go the PG Lang approach of doing this mysterious Easter egg filled visual heavy content with all these live streams, all the little weird visuals that we're seeing in it. But the visuals are boring. He's building up all this weird suspense because you don't really know what's going on throughout the live streams. And then the payoff is very mediocre music. It's so stupid and really uncalculated, which I'm surprised by. It's like, if you're going to create these big moments with these Iceman rollouts and put a bunch of money into producing them, wouldn't you at least follow them up with some good music? Because you have all these eyeballs on you. You want to get people talking about something positive, right? Anyways, Joe Budden is saying, because they're quote-unquote live streams, maybe that's why the live streamers are hating on them, because now Drake is kind of their competition, right? He's also been going in that streaming lane. In case rap doesn't work out, he's linked up with Adin Ross, XQC. He's got a deal with Kick, with Stake. He's doing the gambling on the streaming platforms, pushing all that garbage. It targets the next generation, but maybe the streamers are hating because, now he's kind of their competition.
This is the same formula he's used for all three of these Icemen.
I wouldn't expect to get so much love from the streamers because I would expect them to view me as competition.
And they also emphasize they're reserving their opinions on Iceman until the album actually comes out, and that as much criticism as they give Drake, Joe Budden definitely does, they're not Drake haters. They do want to see him make great music.
Listen, I'm reserving anything that I have to say on the matter until I hear the project. A lot of y'all out there already know where I stand on all things Drake. It hasn't changed. I'm just waiting on the music.
And I want to be clear, because we get the flack for being haters up here. We love Drake. We want to see and hear great Drake.
I was telling Parks outside, I'm not feeling any of this music, but Drake not being great hurts. It hurts the ecosystem. Things are not the way they're supposed to be if he's not great. Niggas ain't making as much money as they would normally make.
Yeah.
Excitement, the moments.
I disagree, though. I think you can have that without Drake. Like I said before, how Professor Sky brought up the great point that I think everyone overlooked in that Kanye West used to fill that gap, but he used to do it in a much stronger way. Like, think back to the Life of Pablo days when he was putting on artists like Chance the Rapper, giving them a global platform. Travis Scott, Kid Cudi, Pusha T as a solo artist. He laced Nicki Minaj and Rick Ross with their best features of all time thanks to his production, thanks to his push within the studio. You need these megastars in the ecosystem to boost the overall morale, right? Make everything feel exciting again, create these massive moments. I think Kendrick Lamar has done a phenomenal job at filling that void, creating those moments, and igniting the fire that starts the shift within music. But it's never been one artist that could change everything. So for them to say that, Drake can be the one and him missing is making the labels not want to invest in hip hop, I don't think he is solely responsible in the slightest. I think you need multiple megastars to push things to a higher level. But anyways, Joe continues his point to say, like, Drake can make music for anyone, right? Like the older generation, the younger generation. You need a superstar like that in order for hip hop to be dominating on this global level.
Everybody having like that art, what did Mos Def call them? Target. Everybody having that store to go to where you could get a song for me, you can get a song for you, you can get a song for you. That's why I don't like that Ice keeps saying about, he's trying to appeal to the kids. Dog, Target got shit for the kids and for me. So we'll see.
I got 2 points to make on that. Number one, like I said before, I don't think it's solely Drake that can do this, right? That can save hip-hop in terms of a mainstream perspective of incentivizing the labels to invest more in terms of touching the entire global sphere with music that can appeal to everybody. It can't just be Drake because Drake's whole superpower, similar to Kanye West, but very different in terms of how he approached it. His whole shtick was getting with artists who were smaller than him, but who were creating this whole new wave and adopting their sound into his own. Right? We saw him do this with international artists like Wizkid. We saw him do this with house music artists like Kinda Music, Gordo, Black Coffee, trap artists like Future, Young Thug, Migos, 21 Savage. Earlier on, he was incorporating Kanye West and Lil Wayne's sound very heavily. Kanye West would bring the artists into his world. Drake is only successful by making those other artists' worlds his own, right? Like ever since he was teaming up with Future and Metro Boomin, he started incorporating more trap music. Same thing with Wizkid. We saw him do all these dancehall records after doing One Dance with Wizkid. That's his superpower. That's how he keeps the ball rolling. But if he can't find a sound to leech onto because there's nothing going on within the culture, how is he supposed to move culture and bring it to a global level by incorporating these smaller artists into his own world, right? How is he supposed to create something that can appeal to both the younger generation and the old? It's not that Drake's been missing. It's that there's nothing to be inspired by for him at this point because the audience will not settle for the type of music that he's been pushing for the last 10 years. I had a second point to make, but I forgot it. I'm tired. It's 4 a.m. Drop a like and subscribe for the fact that I'm out here making this video at 4 a.m. Congratulations to Kendrick Lamar and Doechii for the Emmy and the VMA. If you think hip-hop is boring, I would tell you it's in a transitionary period and you're seeing the right artists get the awards they deserve for the fact that they're moving the culture and music in general forward in ways we have not seen in years. And they're forcing the audience to want something greater, something better, something bigger. But let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you in the next one.